All right, here we go. Today we have Sharay Hayes, a.k.a. Punisher, who recently took the stand in the Diddy trial to discuss being hired as an escort to have intercourse with Cassie while Diddy watched. Welcome to Vlad TV.
Man, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate being here.
I just want to start off that I feel a little uncomfortable calling you Punisher. As a heterosexual male, I just want to put that out there. I mean, I will mention the name because, that's your alias, but I just want to have that disclaimer in the very beginning. Just want to say that.
Man. You got to keep it solid, right?
Got to keep it solid. Got to keep it solid. Well, you have a very interesting story, and I want to get into a little bit of it before we get into, what we're really here to talk about. Now, you grew up in Harlem.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you said your dad was kind of a gangster around the neighborhood?
Yeah, man. Like he had a pretty good reputation, man. A lot of intimidation that got me like a lot of respect and a lot of treatment, great treatment as a kid. But, that led him into prison at a very young age. So we didn't really rekindle our relationship till I got to my late teens because he ended up getting locked up.
What did you get locked up for?
Bank robbery.
Bank robbery?
Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty bold there.
Yeah.
How much did he get?
He got 8 years federal.
8 years.
Yeah.
How much money did he get from the bank?
The crazy thing is not much, man. It was more of he didn't do like the in the bank robbery. It was, how businesses do the bank drop. So he tried to rob the bank drop and, it got compromised. The person had a pistol and didn't go with it.
Now, while you're growing up, when you're in high school, you had a situation where you got stabbed?
Yeah, man. Just, hanging out in Harlem, thinking I'm tough. I'm at a party. Some guys don't like my friend, and we get into something outside, and I got the bottle. You crack the bottle, and somebody came from behind, caught me on the side of the neck, spent 10 days in the hospital. I had 10 stitches in, 10 stitches out. It was a really, really, really significant wound. But I mean, I'm 16 years old, man. I'm pumped up on testosterone and adrenaline. And actually, you would think something like that would calm you down, but it made you worse. Made me worse because I had this mentality of, well, look, I already survived it. Like, what's the chances of something happening again? And it made me a little more reckless, but luckily I found sports and that kind of leveled it out for me.
Okay, and the Punisher name came from basketball?
Yeah, man, basketball, man. I started hooping real seriously. Getting stabbed, I ended up missing a year of high school. So when I started back up, I went to Martin Luther King, ended up on the basketball team. I played my junior and senior year and actually ended up with a partial scholarship to Southern University in Baton Rouge to hoop.
Okay. Did you end up actually going to college or?
Yeah, I went to Southern University. I went to hoop, but I still had kind of like a Harlem, even though I'm not going to front like I was a street kid, but when you're young and a teenager, you want to be tough. So I walked around with kind of that bravado. You take a Harlem kid and you put him in the middle of Louisiana, and it just wasn't going to work, man. So I stayed like a semester, had a little bit of ego, didn't feel like I was going to start, like I'm going to come into a Division I program and play immediately. Told myself I was going to come back to New York and transfer to Iona because my uncle's like an All-American from Iona. His name's Gary Springer. And I'm thinking I'm a transfer, and I never even went back to school.
Okay, so by 22, you became a male stripper.
Yeah.
Okay, what led you into that?
I ended up staying in a relationship with my high school sweetheart, and she came home one day and just was like, I'm going to start working in a female strip club. And basically gave me no choice. It was like, take it or leave it. So I took it. Like, I didn't, I was in love. And about a year into her doing that, she came home one day talking about, I'm meeting all these guys. I don't want to be tied down anymore. And she dumped me. So my 21-year-old mind thought it was a good idea that, I'll show her. I'm going to go be a stripper too. And then she'll see all the girls into me and feeling me. And then I'll get her back. And that's really was the motivation to get my girlfriend back.
Okay, so describe to me the first night doing male stripping. Because it's very different than a regular female strip club.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
So my first night actually was doing house parties. The guy who introduced me, like put me on to it, he was like really popular in the game. So like a male dancer, you'll get 5 or 6 parties a night where you just go from house to house to house and there's bachelorette parties. So he just took me with him and was like, yo, bro, let's go. When you come in, just say you're a stripper already. Don't say you're a new guy, and just kind of, come along with me to see the ropes. And one of the spots he got to, the girls was like, who's your friend? And they were like, do you want him to dance? And so he comes in the room like, bro, they want you to dance. How much money you want? And I didn't even want to dance. I was terrified. So I was like, I'm going to think of a lot of money, so it's going to outprice me and they don't want me to dance. And I was like, tell them I want $50, right? Because I already bet. So he comes back and throws me the 50, and I went out there with this little eye patch thong on and some Saucony track sneakers and just hopped around their living room. It must have looked crazy, man. I picked up the Bachelorette. She was a little heavy. Reggae song was on. She started bogling. I fell over, dropped, landed on top of her. It was complete, like, it was a horror show, man. But it was what it happened. I made it happen, and 30 years later, I'm still on the hustle. Okay,
so were you getting naked or just like a thong kind of situation?
Yeah, at the time, just down to like a little eye patch.
Okay.
Yeah, a little G-string. But it eventually got to the point where, not necessarily naked, because that doesn't really work with women, but it does get to a point where you do something which is called flash. So, like, when you get further in the business, you understand the illusions, right? So if anybody's seen videos of male dancers, and sometimes it looks like they walking with like something swinging down to their knee, right? That's something called beefing up, where prior to the show, you get an erection and you use something similar to like a cock ring and you tie it on the base. So you're basically tying your erection to keep the blood in. And after about 20, 30 minutes, it does get painful or whatever, but you got to kind of just manage it. But it gives the illusion like you're walking around with this swinging, because it's not fully, but it's hanging. So you look like in a flaccid state, you like 6 inches flaccid. So women going to think, wow, if that thing gets erect, it's going to be big. So you start doing this illusion, and it gives you like a little reputation to walk around. And if you tie it well enough, at some point in your show, you can have a moment where you pull it out and then the girls just go nuts.
Okay, so you're dancing for these women, and these are sometimes overweight women, like you mentioned, and middle-aged women. These are not like supermodels that you're doing this for.
Nah, if you're gonna get like a 10% ratio, like 1 out of every 10 girls is like, okay, she's nice, but the other 9,
Okay. Now, leading up to the situation with Diddy and Cassie, were women actually paying you to have sex with them?
Nah, that, like, being a male escort was not necessarily my hustle, but you do get opportunities as a stripper. But it's never, women are not overt with, hey, how much for sex? Like, that's not how they do. So when you get propositioned by women, it's usually, do you do one-on-ones? Can I hire you to dance for me? Just me, or do you do massages, right? So it always starts out as some sort of just one-on-one intimate thing. But if you read between the lines, there's a possibility where she wants it to escalate for sex. So have I been hired for a one-on-one dance that led into sex? Yes. You know what I'm saying? But have I ever said, hey, sex is XYZ an hour? You know what I'm saying? Whatever. No, because, women are not going to hire you under those pretenses. There's always some sort of intimacy that can lead to the opportunity.
Okay, so leading up to the Cassie situation, how many women actually hired you for one-on-ones?
I want to say leading up to the Cassie situation, I would say maybe 20, 25.
Okay. And how much did you charge each time?
I mean, listen, I was still a dancer, right? So I'm charging a dancer's rate. So I guess I'm probably the cheapest gigolo in the city because I'm getting a dancer's rate. And if it led to sex, honestly, it wasn't because I got paid for sex. It was because this is a woman I would have had sex with anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's attractive. She's somebody that I would deal with. And if she hired me for a one-on-one and there was some actual attraction, then obviously I'll let it go to the next step.
Okay, but you told me that only 1 out of 10 are actually attractive, so...
Well, I'm talking about, that's in the club.
Okay.
So in the club, there's 500 women, right?
Yeah.
So I'm saying 1 out of every 10 of those 500 women are attractive. When women call me for a one-on-one, then I can kind of screen what it is. And now, mind you, even with that ratio, I got called for probably 20, 30 parties a week. Like in my height of dancing, I was extremely popular, and culturally, it was the thing to do, like hire a male stripper, you know what I'm saying? So I became kind of like a local celebrity as a male stripper during that time frame, you know?
Yeah, my man Roger Bonds, who I just put you on FaceTime with, said he knew of you.
Yeah.
Said, he was a Harlem guy, you're a Harlem guy. You guys didn't know each other, I think, personally, but he knew of you.
Yeah.
And he basically said how around that time, a lot of guys were coming out of prison and they were all like jacked up from working out, and a lot of them would go into male stripping and so forth. Did you see a lot of that?
Yeah, I seen the attempt of it. Like, every guy think, I'm in good shape, I can just do this. But it's not really that easy, man. Like, if you'll get a couple of parties, you'll come through, you'll make a couple of bucks, but if you're gonna do it as a living, it probably was just a handful of guys that consistently did it, and you gotta build a reputation. You gotta be known for it to be profitable other than a couple of bucks, maybe once or twice a month,
Okay, so 2012, you're around 38 years old at the time. You have a website called Get Punished.
Yes.
And you get contacted by a female from this website.
Yep.
Which ended up being Cassie.
Exactly.
So what was the first contact like?
Seemed like just a normal, typical party. I pick up the phone. It's like she introduces herself as Janet.
Janet?
Yep, it's Janet. And she says it's her birthday. She said, it's my birthday, and my husband told me that I can have an entertainer, and I'm celebrating with some friends. So we want you to come through and do a dance for me and my friends. So I'm expecting a small gathering of women to do a show. And so we scheduled it. We picked the time. He told me the Trump Hotel. And the time originally was like midnight, then it got pushed to 1, then it got pushed to 2, and I think eventually we scheduled on like 2:45 a.m.
Okay. And was money discussed at this point?
Yeah, the going rate at the time to a regular striptease was like $200. So that's what I quoted.
Okay. So you show up to the Trump Hotel. What happens next?
Bro, it's crazy because I'm coming there expecting a party, and the door opens and it's Janet, and she's basically in a robe, but it's completely obvious that she's nude underneath. And she kind of just opens the door with this big inviting smile. Hey, how you doing? And I'm like, because listen, man, we live in a time with filters, and every woman can make themselves look attractive and beautiful on social media and stuff like that. But when you see a woman like Miss Ventura, and she looks flawless, man. It's like, it's a wow factor, So opening the door to that stunning of a woman was like, what is this? And I, like, she's naked, right? So you can tell she's naked. So she's like, come on in, and I'm heading on in,
Okay, so you come in the room, and there's someone else in the room.
No.
At that point, no.
No.
Just her.
So it's a suite, right? So she brings me in, and she takes me straight to the living room. And the living room is darkly lit, it's dim. And then what was weird about it is every piece of furniture was covered in sheets. So I look around, I have like a little mini freak out because I think I just watched this movie called American Psycho. And when he used to bring people into his house to kill them, he used to cover all his furniture. So I'm like, yo, what's about to happen? But whatever, I regained my composure, and we stopped in front of a bathroom, and so I immediately asked, I still think I'm gonna dance, right? So I say, do you want me to change here? So she immediately explains, look, I don't want you to dance. Actually, while you're here is me and my husband, we like to create a sexy scene. So she starts explaining to me that she wants me to change into underwear or a towel, and then she points to 2 of the couches, and she said, we're gonna sit on those couches, you're gonna sit here, I'm gonna be here, and we're gonna put baby on and create like a sexy environment, and at some point, my husband's gonna come out and watch.
Okay, so how much baby oil was around at this point?
So the baby oil, ironically, by the couches, there were like bowls, and the bowls were filled with warm water. and there were just big bottles of baby oil just placed in the bowl. So
Okay.
I want to say it was 2 to 3 bottles of baby oil, but the big ones, the
jumbo.
the thirst busters.
Okay. All right. So you start putting the baby oil on at this point?
Yeah, so I go in the bathroom, change to the towel. I come out. She's in the robe, so she takes her robe off. I'm in my towel, and we're both first individually oiling each other. And then it leaves, I'm oiling myself, she's oiling herself, then we start oiling each other. And then there's some sort of like, masturbation, like I'm masturbating, she's masturbating, we're creating this sexual environment. And at some point, shortly after that started, her husband walked into the room.
Okay. Now, this husband that walks in the room was a black male.
Black male.
Who was only wearing a veil on his face?
Yes. So he walks into the room. Now, one part that I left out is part of the instructions initially was in creating these scenes, when her husband came in, we were not supposed to acknowledge him at all. I was supposed to act like he's not there. Don't look at him, don't talk to him, try my best to just make believe he's not in the room. So even when he walks in, I have to look at him from my peripherals, but I'm gonna look, right? Because I never been in a situation that's kind of odd. So he does walk in nude, I can kind of see, but then when it gets to his neckline, it's like I think they call a burqa, like the Muslim women wear it, and you can only see the eyes.
Okay. So you got this naked guy in the room with you. You don't know who it is, though.
I have no idea.
He's not talking or anything else like that at this point?
Not at this point. He just comes in. I notice in his hands a purple top. So I use Astral Glide so I can kind of make out he had Astral Glide. And across the room, there was like a table with a chair. So he kind of sat at the table in the chair, and he sat there, and he would get up and kind of walk side to side and pace side to side, which you could tell he was trying to get better visual angles.
Okay. What happens next?
With the visual angles, he would start giving very subtle directions. But it was just more or less on viewing. Like the room was candlelit, so he would at times get her attention and tell her, "Hey, move the candle to the left, move the candle to the right, turn your body this way." And he never spoke directly to me, but it could be instructions for me to turn my body, for me to get in different positions. And so this went on about 20, 25 minutes. Eventually, he just got up and left the room. That was kind of like a cue for her to follow him. She left the room, and then she just came back and was like, "That was great. It was perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. Like, we're good." But then she asked me, "Do I want to finish?" And so me finishing is referring to me having an orgasm. But honestly, man, with the environment and stuff, I'm kind of uncomfortable. So I declined. Like I went the high road. Like professionally, like, look, if you guys are happy, I'm happy. It's not about my needs. As long as everything is good, cool. And she accepted that. I stood up, and she handed me $1,200. And that was in addition. I didn't mention when I first got there prior to changing, the first thing she did was handed me $800. And after everything was over, it was an additional $12. So I ended up with $2,000 for like a 20-minute baby oil massage. So it was a win for me.
Okay. And so you guys didn't have sex, but you rubbed baby oil on her naked body and everything else like that. So there was definitely sexual activity, but not full-blown
Not
intercourse.
full-blown sex, no.
Okay. So you got $2,000, and you didn't recognize Cassie at all, did you?
I did not, man.
At that point, yeah.
I saw a face, but I couldn't completely make it out. Like, so she had on a wig, right? So she's wearing a wig. So later after the fact, I didn't have the cue of the shaved hair, kind of look. So, and I'm looking at the face, and I just couldn't figure it out. When I left, I tried to jump on Google. I knew they had to be some sort of celebrity couple, but I think what was throwing me off was I thought they were married. So all my Google searches are married couple, married couple, married couple, and obviously they're not going to come up under that search term.